It's going everyone, MultieWorld back in the video. At this point in time, you probably don't want to watch the final trailer reaction thing that I did yesterday. But if you want to, I'll leave it up there in the iCard. That being said, if you hear, maybe you've already watched the first episode of One Piece, the live action for Netflix. Possible spoilers here. I don't think anything was like too far from. I actually don't really remember the anime, to be honest, that clearly. It's been a while since I watched it, or the start of it at least. I'm not fully done it. I've watched what Netflix used to have before. They had 130 episodes, and I watched all 130 on there. And I know there's over 1,000 now, but that's what I've watched on Netflix. Hopefully you've already watched, so I'm going to get into it. For me, One Piece is my favorite anime of all time. And I say that, but also I like Inuyasha. I just like the adventure aspect of anime. When you put adventure into an anime, it just makes it so much fun for me. And maybe it's just kind of, it's the escape. It's the place that where you want to go. I also want to add to that, this is actually not really a review, it's more so like a first impressions, or it is a first impressions, not really necessarily a review, even though I will go maybe into detail about some stuff. Yeah, sorry, back on topic. One Piece for me is like about the adventure, and I love it, and I love anime that's about that, and that's what makes it at least one of my favorite animes of all time, if not my favorite. I think I'm definitely going to get that from this live action. It's not necessarily even a problem, it's just it's something that you just feel within. And I think it's because you watch the anime and then you watch this live action thing, and I do that thing that I said don't do, but it's hard not to when you're trying to compare kind of things, and maybe they're not necessarily going for the anime, not necessarily humor, but like the, what's that word? It's like what you're trying to capture. And it's hard to capture that in live action. I do think that they do it at certain parts, or I just get a little bit of like a hit of like, okay, anime kind of feel. I do get that, so don't get me wrong, that's not in there. I at least got it once for sure. But that being said, it's not necessarily bad. It's just not necessarily like the greatest. I've only watched one episode. You know, I haven't watched all of it, and I don't plan on doing like first impressions of, or like not necessarily first impressions, but or like even like a review of each episode or talking about each episode. But this is one right here, Romance Dawn, I just plan on talking about and just giving my first impressions on it. It's potential, I think so. I didn't make the mistake though, because my brightness was down on my screen. I didn't turn the brightness up until the first appearance of Zoro, and that was my fault. So maybe things could have looked better when, not necessarily that it looked bad, it was just worse so I didn't see, like, maybe it could have been more captivating if I would have had my brightness up a little. Yeah, it's not like it was terrible. It's just, the problem is with Luffy is that he's just this out of this world character, and it's hard to captivate that. I'm saying it wasn't necessarily done the best. It's fair. Like I said, I can't remember the anime too much. I think about trying to capture him, it's, you know, it might not be able to be done, or it's not necessarily done in the most correct way. And there might be stuff that's said or stuff that, like, you know, Luffy wouldn't act that way. But I guess when you think of it in a live action sense, he actually did a good job, the actor, and I think everyone did a decent job. And it's not bad. It's not necessarily like, oh, it's the most terrible thing I ever watched. It's just that, like, I think the problem is I go back to the sense of like I go back to the sense that this is an anime and a live action, or an anime made to live action, and it is hard to separate that. I get where people are coming from, and someone who's a more hardcore fan than me and into One Piece like that and very into anime would be like, man, this show might suck. They actually might think that. In the sense of like separating them, I think I can kind of separate the two well enough to be like, okay, I see the potential, and I actually am left with more excitement to, yeah, I guess there's not really spoilers. I guess there's not really spoilers too much in this, but you do get introduced into like all the characters, and you get like Luffy, of course, Kobe, Zoro, Nami, and then you get introduced into like villains and stuff like that, like Captain Morgan, and blanking me right now, Valdiva or whatever that name is. It's not spoilers that they're in it, but at the end of this episode, if you don't hear it, turn away, but Buggy appears. Not necessarily spoilers, it's kind of maybe obvious that they were going to be in there anyways because they're in the anime and they're in there pretty early. That being said, I think I'm definitely left on more of like curious of like what's going to happen. It's not the best thing I ever watched, but it's actually not the worst thing I ever watched either, and I definitely want to give it more of a chance. And not to say like, oh, I wasn't going to give it a chance anyways, but I definitely have a connect and a disconnect with it. There's something there that I'm like, okay, I like this. And there's something there like, it's like, it doesn't feel right. Maybe that's comparing to the anime and how good the anime was. And yeah, if you separate it and put it on its own thing, and I can actually think of it by itself, but with a little bit of One Piece in there, I'm like, you know what, it's actually alright. I explained it correctly, hopefully I did. I think this actually has potential, and actually wasn't like the worst first episode, and actually wasn't necessarily bad. It's just there's feelings there that like, or a feeling that I'm just like, little disconnect, and maybe a couple times I'm like, why is that there? Or maybe it was in anime and I just forgot about it. That being said, I actually am excited. I'm looking forward to watching more of it. I definitely want to go on an adventure with these guys, and yeah, let's see where it goes, and hopefully it gets better. And I think it will. I think it'll be all right. Thanks for watching. See ya.